Hold on, guys. You guys can hear me, right? You guys can hear me. Let me fix this part. Hold on. Hold on. We'll take care of everything. Okay. What the hell? Oh my god. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. No, this does not count as late points. We're not even gonna go there. We're not gonna go there. You guys can hear me. It counts at the very least as a podcast sort of stream. Alright, what is going on here? Why is this not working? What the fuck? Alright. Come on. Come on. Alright, hold on, hold on. Hold on, everybody. No, no, no. Hold on. Hold on. What the fuck? This is crazy. The camera is plugged in. Alright, let's try this again. Oh, oh. It's working. It's working. It's working. We got it. We got this. Alright. Alright, we got this. Alright. This might fuck it up. Might fuck it up right here. Oh. Okay. Okay. Oh, all right. We did it. So here's the secondary part of the problem. The the mic is currently not working. So we had both things not functioning properly as they should. I can give the mic one more try. Here, hold on. Let me unplug, replug back in. Okay. Oh my god. All right. Let's try this. God damn it. It's not doing anything for the mic. I mean, you guys can hear me. It's just not ideal. Testing, testing. All right, we might just okay. We might just be dealing with this audio. I'll speak closer to the thing. Let me see if I can fiddle with this audio a little bit. Hello, hello. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, this is what we got. It. This is what we're working with at this moment in time. This is what we're working with today. All right. All right, everybody. How are we doing? I gotta troubleshoot the mic. I guess next week. I guess this will be a Thursday thing. Troubleshoot the mic. Hold on. Mic. Okay. There we go. All right. All right. Yeah, there we go. All right, everybody. How we doing? How we doing? What is going on? Sick hoodie? You want it? You can have it. I will. I will let you. I will let anybody in chat who wants to have this hoodie get this hoodie. In fact, if you really like it, there's more where that came from. Check this out. So, I'm being so for real when I say it's our Admiral collection. We're selling it for this month only. After this timer goes out, you can still technically get them, but the deal is gone. So right now, if you want your hoodies, the discount is $80 off for each hoodie. Each hoodie is $80 off. If you like Aokiji, Akainu, Kizaru, whoever, $80 off for each one. If you want the full set, you can buy two, you get the third one free, and the hoodies are all still discounted. So get this deal while you can. This is the time to get this deal. We're not doing this after March 7th, all right? That is the way the production of these hoodies works. That's just the way it works. So get your hoodies right now while you can. All right. Oh, shit. I got to add my face cam here to this. So the face cam is video capture device 7. Add this in. Okay. And we can make this small, teeny tiny. All right. There we go. You know what? I should... Never mind. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Maybe if they're Yonko hoodies instead of Admiral. The thing is that the Admiral hoodies lend themselves more to style, I think, just because of the Logia aspect, you know? Yeah, the mic, it will be fixed. So notice the mic that I normally use is over here. We're basically using the computer mic's audio, unfortunately, for this stream. Turn up mic. I can turn this up. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Fuck, can I turn this up? I think I'll just have to speak closer to the thing. Let me see if there's a way I can increase it. No, I'm just going to speak closer. I think I'm just going to have to speak closer. So we'll move the whole laptop a little bit closer. I will come closer. That's our unfortunate temporary solution. And I will project. I think that's the things that I can do. I'll be projecting as much as possible in this stream. Hello, hello. I will try and do that. I should sell black sword paint. That's funny. Where's the Fujitora and green bowl hoodies? Don't worry. There's hoodies coming. There's hoodies coming for everything. Not for everything, but there's additional. We've got more designs, but they're not. There's going to be a brief pause on them. There's going to be a brief pause on them. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg. Basically, this was feeling out the waters to some degree. This is feeling out the waters. All right. All right, everybody. How we doing? How we doing? Oh my God, my hair's a mess right now. I say that at the start of every stream, but I always feel it. You know, I always feel that. Yeah, I hope we're doing well. I hope you guys are looking forward to the weekend. Turn your volume up too, chat. I think that's unfortunately just the way it's going to have to be. Morge having stream tech issues is such a nostalgic site. If you guys go back, to when I lived in my previous... No, not previous. This is like 4 apartments back when my streams were on Sunday mornings, actually. I used to do Sunday morning streams. Terrible, terrible camera. No mic. No background. The walls were blank, white. Those were the days. That was COVID time. That was when the channel was basically getting... That was before the channel... That was when the channel was on its way up. Will I ever bring back the Morge plushies? No. The Morge plushies? Here's the thing. Okay, the Morge plushies are... but the big thing about the Morge plushies, they're not created by us. They're created by a company, okay, a separate company. And they are far more trouble than they're worth. The Morge plushies will almost never come back. It is extremely unlikely the Morge plushies will come back. One, I don't think the plushies are... Where is my plushie? It's up there. I'd have to reach for it. I don't think the plushies are well designed. I don't think that they captured my likeness. I look Hispanic. It does not look like me. It doesn't look like Luffy. The plushies do not look good, in my opinion. That's partly why they were funny. But 2, the amount, because it's a different company making it, and the revenue splits and everything like that, and they have like demands for how many plushies need to be sold, the amount of plushie peddling that needs to be done for those plushies to actually make good money for the channel is just, it's absurd. Uh, compared to like just doing normal things like sponsors or our own merch and stuff like that. Shacker Magnus 9450, thanks for the 10. Is this, are you no, you're not Magnus. Never mind. Are you Magnus? Magnus was our image finder for, I know that Magnus comes through the stream sometimes. I don't think you're Magnus though, because I've seen Magnus, I've seen, if Magnus is watching, I've seen your account before, I'm pretty sure. So I don't think that, please let me know if you are Magnus, like our real Magnus. Anyway, thanks for the 10. Doflamingo's family, Judge, Sanji, Big Mom's family, Kaido, Yamato, Momo, Odin, Kuma, Bonnie, Harold, Loki, Shanks, Garling. Do you think Oda's continuous theme of parent and child is leading towards anything? That's always been a thing that Oda's liked throughout the story. He just likes it. It's just a part of One Piece. Because One Piece is, a lot of it is, a big part of One Piece is just the general idea of family, and you know, sometimes you're born into families where you do actually have loving parents and things like that, but then other times you have found family, right? So a lot of cases, like a lot of the worst families, right, are ones where the character is born into them, like Judge, Sanji, Big Mom's family, Kaido, Yamato. There's exceptions, like, you know, Momonosuke and Odin, or Harold and Loki. But, you know, Shanks, Garling, terrible family. And then lots of the best families, like Kuma, Bonnie, Nami, Bellemere, Chopper, Hirolook. Those are ones that are found families, so that's just a big recurring idea throughout the story. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Up to 50. Justin, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 40 months, man. Thanks for the long-time support. Luffy, Loki, and Emu finally meet. Oh shit! Let's get our predictions going. Let's get our predictions rolling. This chapter, I think, is actually, it's very hard to predict. I think this chapter is a tough one prediction-wise. Here, let me load this. Give me a second here. Yeah. All right, here we go. It's 1175 predictions, right? Yeah, 1175 predictions. Damn. Sometimes I look at the chapter counts and I'm just like, how are we here? How are we 1100 chapters into One Piece? This is fucking insane. All right, 1175 predictions. Here we go. We're kicking it off. Thanks for kicking it off, Justin. So what we got is Luffy, Loki, and Emu finally meet. Okay, Luffy uses the voice of all things to telepathically issue orders to the Straw Hats. Luffy reassures the giant kids. Live chat and happy hour possible soon. We've been winding those down, but we will consider it based on popular demand, but we have been winding those down. I haven't done that since the conclusion of last year's, I think, November batch of posters, I think, something like that. Maybe it was October, I forget. Or maybe it was no, maybe I'm behind by a year. It might be even further back than that. I might be mistaken. Yeah, continuing on. So yeah, actually it might be far further than that. I might be a year behind in my thinking. So I think we have not been doing that. Luffy, Loki, and Emu finally meet. Okay, so this is a lot of submissions. Let me just for fairness, let me parse through this a little bit. So what we're gonna put down is Luffy. Oh, what the hell? I don't know how this works. Okay, here we go. All right. Luffy, Loki, and Emu finally meet. And I'll put Luffy uses voice of all things. I think that's a good one. Let me shift this whole thing over. Alright, here we go. Yeah, Luffy uses voice of all things. Wait, why am I numbering this? Numbering is not correct. We do bullet points. Yeah, there we go. That's better. That's better. Luffy uses voice of all things. Alright. Aether, thanks for being a Pirate King team member for 35 months. Holy shit, man. We get an update on Frankie's whereabouts. I feel like it's too easy and simple for prediction. I feel like that. What's our line here? What's our line here? Okay, let me throw this to the people. Let me throw this to the people. How do we feel about this? How do we feel about this? Too easy of a prediction. I don't know if that's too easy, because, like, that's not... Like, what's an update? Like, is it just Oda showing us the map? Is it Oda showing us an actual scene of Frankie? Here. What's the line here? Update on Frankie's whereabouts. We get an update on Frankie's whereabouts. We get an update on Frankie's whereabouts. Too easy of a prediction. It's all good. All right. I'll leave it to the people. I'll leave it to the people. Anand Karthik says, I swear somebody's going to do a super chat mentioning Law just to make him start the rant. Law. Hey, I've got nothing. No. There's nothing to even rant about, you know? The good thing about Law is that he's no longer relevant, you know? It just doesn't matter. He's gone. We're free from his reign of terror. Hold on. Let me see one thing. Yeah, this color spread pissed... Let me just show this. Alright? Despite what I just said about... This is my last thought on Law. I will never forget this. This pissed me off so much. This is one of the most iconic color spreads of One Piece. You guys see this? You guys see what I'm looking at? This is one of the iconic spreads of One Piece, right? Came out early on in the post-time skip, right? This is one of the more memorable color spreads, great color spread, right? It would be a great color spread, but it's just so absurd when you look at it. Why is it Luffy and Law at the front? I just will never understand why other readers were not upset by this, because it's just like, no, this is... This is like Luffy and the Straw Hat story. Like, why is Law positioned at the front? Like, okay, if they threw him in the back with Kinemon, like, nobody's complaining about Kinemon being here, because it's like, yeah, he's a side character. He goes to the back. But it's like, why is it... It's not the Luffy Law story. It's just so absurd. It's like, why is he suddenly being presented as though he's like the Sasuke to Luffy's Naruto, and all the Straw Hats, like the main characters of the story, are shoved to the back? It's just so ridiculous. And nobody had a problem with it. That's why do you guys understand? Am I talking like... I don't think I'm saying anything insane here. It's just like, Oda opening up the time skip. Here's a big spread showcasing like the crazy post-time skip stuff to come. The new age that I've been talking about so long. And it's got all your favorite characters. Luffy and Trafalgar Law. Oh, and the Straw Hats, well, they're like secondary characters, so they're shoved to the back. It was just so dumb. It was so dumb, and everyone just rolled with it. That's what it was. It was enabling Oda to just be like, I guess, you know what, we'll just make it the Luffy and Law show, because everybody, all the readers actually loved Law, and they were like, fuck it. Law got, like, second in a popularity poll, I remember. Like, he's the first character to beat out Zoro, and then bump Sanji to 4th place and stuff. Like, it was just, it was insane times that we were living in. It was not right. I'll just say that. It was not right. Anyway, continuing on. Alright, so it looks like we're leaning towards too easy for prediction. Aether, do you want to get in a different one? Tiptia says law derangement syndrome example. No, it's not. I feel like, you know what? I do feel like I'm losing my mind over this because it's not. There's no exaggeration. It's like he's suddenly just commanding the story. It's like the story suddenly is like his story. Like he's the main character. It's like he and Luffy are the main characters, and everybody else just fucking sucks. Like that's not law derangement syndrome. That's just pointing out reality. Like I'm showing you literal visual evidence that look at this man. Hold on. Let me pull it up again. What the fuck? This is the truth. It actually happened. This is what was going on at that time. It was just like, what the fuck? The spotlight is these two characters and then everybody else. And I'm like, that's not One Piece. That's not the story. What the hell? Alright, anyway. Bro actually still got baited into the law rant. I didn't get baited. I just happened to feel like talking about law a little bit right then. It was irrelevant to whatever that guy brought up. It was coincidental. I did that of my own volition. I just felt in the mood, even though I specifically said at the start that I was not in the mood to talk about law. Anyway, too easy for prediction. It seems like it's pretty tight 50-50. All right. Here's what we're gonna do. We'll make it more specific. We get a scene with Frankie in it. All right? If we get that, not just an update on his whereabouts, like a map showing where he is or something. Yeah. All right. Mr. MMF2, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 40 months, man. Thank you for the long-time support. L Hair, L Mike, Classic Lord, I predict that Sanji and Somers will finally interact. Okay, I think that's good. Yeah, Sanji and Somers will interact. Henchme987, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 2 months. Gear 5 minutes already runs out, and Luffy needs recharging while Loki hard carries. I don't think that's a good bet, personally. I think that Oda will show us a little bit of Luffy and Loki in action. But I think it'd be really funny. Gear 5 runs out, Luffy recharges while Loki carries. Well, let me take a look at one thing real quick. Did Loki already defeat pretty much all the major, what are they called? MMAs? Why are they called MMAs again? What does MMA stand for? I feel like Chad is biased to allow for easier predictions, though. I think Chad is actually generally pretty fair about it, because I think Chad wants to, what do you call? I think Chad wants to, like, how do I say this? Chat wants easier prediction. Everybody wants easier predictions to fly for themselves, but I do feel like people have, just some mental incentive to not allow too easy predictions from other people, Because if I said next chapter, there's lightning, right? Because Loki's already calling down lightning or something like that. If somebody in chat said that, then people are like, okay, well, you don't deserve to win the chapter predictions next week just by saying that, I think people enjoy being shown as the winner of the weekly chapter predictions, Yeah, the predictions are for fun. It's just to kind of keep it, like, you want to have some sense of pride when you win the chapter predictions, I think, and have your name pop up in the chapter review. I'm also thinking, I'm curious, I feel like it would be fun if, do we want to do like a leaderboard type system? I think it'd be fun to do like a leaderboard type system. Because, okay, so the reward for winning chapter prediction, let's all just sit back a second, right? First, let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Second, I think it would be fun if, like, the reward for winning chapter predictions is you are made mod, right? But at the same time, what we get a lot of the times is somebody wins the chapter predictions. I know I've got some to catch up on, don't worry. People win the chapter predictions, and then, you know, in the next stream, that person's not there or whatever. Like, they basically have the right to ask for mod, and if I see you, I make you mod. But lots of times, somebody wins chapter predictions, they're not in the next stream, or they don't, like, talk about it in the next stream how they won chapter predictions, so then they're not made mod. If you win chapter predictions, you always have the right to be like, hey, reminder, I won chapter predictions, make me mod, right? But over time, a lot of people who have won chapter predictions have been made mods, and now, like, that's like a pretty normal thing that goes around, right? Do we want to do a sort of leaderboard? A leaderboard type thing? Like, I think it'd be nice to have, like, a... Not to make it, like, too overly competitive or whatever. Again, it is for fun. But I think just, you know, people who've won it multiple times, it feels good to see your name, kind of, you know. And then if you've won it in general, then you can be like, look, I've won chapter predictions. I think that'd be nice, you know? Anand Karthik says, wait, I didn't know that, lol. Yeah, well, there's no, like, monetary prize, so giving mod is the easiest thing that I can do. The word MMA is derived from the Japanese word muma. See, I cannot confirm or deny that. It's one of those things that sounds like it could be true, but it also could just be abusing my lack of Japanese knowledge, you know? You know what I think is funny is, like, I think in the West, this is just a random thought, but in the West, like, you know, Japanese life and, like, it's, like, really romanticized in a lot of ways, and a lot of their customs and culture, just because anime stuff, whatever. But for the Japanese, their general outlook is that, well, life kind of sucks. Like, if you... I went down a rabbit hole of watching videos breaking down Japanese culture, right? Like, what actually goes on there. And the working life in Japan is... this is generally common knowledge, but it was just fun to... Like, I knew this already. A lot of people know this already. But when you really go down the rabbit hole of trying to... you know, Japanese content creators breaking down, like, here's actually legitimately a lot of the work norms and everything like that, it is insane. It is so insane. Like, it is genuinely... It would be a nightmare to me to have to work there, personally. Because there's so many things. You're supposed to get to work, like, an hour early. Everybody's supposed to stand and greet each other at a certain point in work. You leave when the boss leaves, but the boss will often leave not till, like, way later. It's expected to go out for drinks whenever the boss wants to go out for drinks. People are generally promoted based on age, not competency. If somebody's there before you or higher up in the age hierarchy, that's just... That part's a little bit less absolute, but there's so many aspects of it that just make life very, very draining and very, very work-oriented. I don't know. Pasty Cash is a one-chapter review months ago. Can I be made mod? Yes. I do think I remember you winning, because I remember the name Pasty Cash. Here we go. All right, continuing. The one good part is that it's really hard to get fired in Japan. It's really hard to get fired. But here's the thing. Even though it's really hard, while it's extremely hard to get fired, the punishment is basically, like, social shaming, in that, like, if you're bad at your job, then they do stuff like move your desk to a place that's undesirable, people stop talking to you, you actually stop being given work, which, in my mind, I'm like, well, I'll take that, you know. You stop being put up for promotion or moving forward in the company. I'm like, well, I would take that, you know, it seems like a free job to just sit around and chill. But apparently it's just, like, it's so deeply uncomfortable that you just wouldn't want to at a certain period of time. But I don't know, maybe things are just different over there versus here. I feel like a lot of Westerners might not feel that level of shame of being able to go to work just to collect a free paycheck, you know? Pasty Cash is a one-chapter review months ago. Can I be made mod? Yes. I do think I remember you winning, because I remember the name Pasty Cash. Here we go. All right, continuing. The one good part is that it's really hard to get fired in Japan. It's really hard to get fired. But Taptio Treviso, thanks for being a Pirate King to remember for 10 months, man. Prediction. Emu says Loki's fruit name. Oh, yeah, that's a good prediction, us finding out Loki's fruit name. How has the final villain question evolved through One Piece fanbase as it progressed? As a Blackbeard fan who didn't like Emu as the final villain at all, you still backing him, question mark? No joke, watch out for tomorrow's video. By the end of tomorrow's video, I think tomorrow's video is a very good one. I think it's a phenomenal video. It's an extension of the video topic from last week, which is breaking down Loki as the dragon. But this one, I think, really, really puts things together. Seriously, watch out for tomorrow's video because I think that, I personally think it's a really strong one. I think it's a really strong one. I think that, I just think you guys are going to like it. I think you guys are going to like it. It's not a huge theory. It's longer than my usual videos. It's pretty substantive, and I think for me, it finally puts together. It feels like a piece. The simplest way I can say it is that, to me, it feels like a piece that I've been trying to figure out how does this make sense of the final conflict and the final villain question. I think it falls into place. I think it clicks into place with this one. So I hope you guys check that out. Strongly encourage you guys to check that out. I think it's a very interesting video. Yeah, definitely watch out for that. So, Taptia, let me get your prediction in. Emu says Loki's fruit name. All right. Cody Abbott 6631, thanks for being a Pirate King to remember for 6 months. With Loki's character ending up how important it has, do you think Oda will bring the Lola Loki stuff back to light, and how important will it be? Will it turn out he actually wanted to, or a twist? I think the Loki Lola stuff becomes all the more interesting because Loki's already a very important character, right? Not important, obviously important, but he's already a well fleshed out character in my opinion. I think we understand Loki well. His backstory gives us a lot of context. He's compelling. It's cool, yada yada. I think the Lola aspect is like a whole additional dimension to him that's really, really fascinating, that I think would add even more to the character, because it's just like the picture that we have of Loki, like we have a pretty fleshed out picture, but this additional side, which is that, wait a sec, Loki was actually at one point deeply in love with a character who you wouldn't really traditionally, I'd say, expect Loki to be infatuated with or in love. Like, why did he get so attached to Lola, that he wanted to marry her and everything, amidst everything else that was happening, him wanting to avenge his father, go after the Celestial Dragons. So I think that it just adds another fascinating aspect to the character, which is like, wait, he has a much softer side too. We know he's got a softer side, but also like, what made Loki fall for her? What does Loki in love look like? What is that whole side of things, right? So I feel like, it'd be kind of like if we found out that before Luffy met Zoro, right? If we found out that before Luffy met Zoro, that Zoro actually, like Zoro-fall characters, had this deep infatuation and romance with some random woman or something like that, and he was rejected. And it's like, whoa, Zoro? Zoro had his heart broken? What's going on over there? Like, what woman could win over Zoro? What was he like when he was in love? Because we've only ever seen Zoro as this, like, very stoic, single-minded character focused on swords and stuff like that, right? What was Zoro like in love? What was a soft Zoro who's had his heart captured look like? And what was this woman who broke his heart? What was that whole situation about? So I really hope that Oda does show us that situation, because it just adds a level of vulnerability to Loki, and helps us. It adds another dimension to the character. It makes the character even more fleshed out and adds more to our understanding of them. So I really hope that we get it. Zoro was in love with Okawa Saji. Lola had us thinking Loki was like Sanji or Orochi. Yeah, that's actually, this is one of the, man, This is one of Oda's greatest little. Oda's just so. One of the cool things about Oda is that he's like just got such a good beat on little, like, there's broad storytelling things that you can talk about, like themes or like, character arcs, right? But there's like, he's just got a talent. I don't know how to explain it. He's just got a talent for storytelling, in the sense that it's a lot of the little things, like little twists and surprises and things going in directions that you don't expect, and maybe that you don't even fully appreciate. But it's like the cumulative feeling of reading One Piece just feels like uh, such a series of pleasant discoveries. Like the Loki situation, if you just go back to, like, no, back to Whole Cake Island, nobody thought back then, like, I'm just trying to think, what would readers have even said if you came from the future and told readers after reading Whole Cake Island that, like, hey, Loki, this dude, it's just really funny to me to think about. Loki, this dude, what would it be, like, probably chapter, like, 860, I think? Maybe I'm off a little bit. Where's our little silhouette of Loki? Probably 855. No, man, I'm still off. Okay, one more. I think it'll be this chapter. Oh my god, it's not this chapter. Damn, Luffy and Sanji's conversation really went very long. Oh man, One Piece was really cool during this period of time. This was like, yeah. I love the entire Whole Cake Island. Whole Cake Island, this is another small tangent, but it just felt so focused, you know? Like, the Mafia plotline was really like, it gave us really cool scenes. One of my favorite underrated little scenes in One Piece is the Mafia meeting that Luffy has with Capone Beige and everything like that. Because it does feel like Luffy's coming up in the world, and, like, he's planning to overthrow other crime bosses and stuff like that. I might be beating a dead horse, but I feel like Wano just threw a lot of that away by overstuffing the arc, not giving us lots of, like, nice, just little scenes to breathe, you know? Like, Luffy and Sanji's conversation goes, like, 3 chapters, basically. That would never happen in Wano. Luffy and Capone Beige, their whole meeting and everything like that, that felt like a nice, just cool, vibes-based scene that did progress the plot and everything like that, but it wasn't just for exposition, it was also to give us just a cool encounter. Anyway, so imagine if right here, we were told that this dude, that this dude, Loki, imagine if we were told that this dude, Loki, this fucker, is what, like, top 2? Maybe is Loki maybe the second strongest character in the world right now? I think there's 2 ways you look at it, which is, like, either Loki is legit second to Imu, or you look at it as, like, Shanks straight up beat Loki, in which case Loki is at least that drops Loki to at least the 3rd spot. And then if you believe that Shanks is below Mihawk, then that drops Loki to the 4th spot. And then if you believe that Dragon is above Shanks, then that probably drops Loki to, like, the 5th spot, right? So Loki's anywhere, but Loki's guaranteed top 5, right? So if we were told that that this dude is stronger than Kaido, stronger than Luffy, stuff like that, above Yonko level, fuck it, stronger than Roger, stronger than Whitebeard, that would have been the most insane, batshit, fucking stupid, crazy, like, that time traveler who came back to tell us about this dude Loki, he would be laughed at. People would be like, you're not a real time traveler, you're an idiot. Or people would be like, damn, One Piece has really gone downhill if Oda's doing shit like that, right? If someone dropped a theory back then saying that I think the Prince Loki of Elbaf is the strongest character on the seas, stronger than Prime Roger, Prime Whitebeard back then, they would have called you insane, right? They would have called you insane. You would have been, laughed out of the community. You know, I think it's just really cool to think that little stuff like this ends up panning out to be so much more than you'd expect, because now this is actually one of the most interesting things in One Piece. Like, what went down here, we really want to know. Back then, the assumption, the popular going theory at that point in time, was that Loki was going to be an Usopp-esque character. Because, you know, traditionally Loki, he's a trickster, he's not a real warrior, this is Norse mythology Loki. But Oda was playing us even with that name, right? He's playing us with that idea. In actuality, Loki is just Loki in name only. In terms of character, he's more like Thor, right? He's essentially Thor in One Piece. Yeah, I just think that that's really, really funny. And the prevailing theory was that Loki's going to be like Usopp. Usopp and Loki will bond in Elbaf. That was like a common idea, you know. Anyway, continuing on. We covered this. Julian Reed, thanks for the 2. I think Loki is guaranteed top 5. I think that, yeah, he's guaranteed top 5 right now. I think the simple range is just what I explained, right? You don't even have to go back so long. Even if you went to Loki's introduction and made these claims, people would scoff. Yeah, that's also true. Like, when Loki was introduced, it was, a lot of people felt, like, if we can go back to past streams, right? We can go back to past streams, because when Loki was introduced, everybody understood right off the bat that this character is very strong. But the range people put him at was basically like, some people had him at Yonko level right. I remember we did polls. We did a lot of polls, and like we did a ton of polls on Loki as time progressed. And the range people kind of had was like, some people felt like he was Yonko level right off the bat. Some people felt like he was Yonko level right off the bat. Then there was a large portion of people that I think the median polling essentially had him at about Admiral level from his introduction. Which was fair. You want to be conservative with a new character, right? It makes sense. And then his polling did also go as low as like Yonko first mate level, because I think a lot of people were like, I think Zoro can take him, right? So, yeah, but fucking nobody. I do not think that, you know, there's probably some crazy person out there who from the right off the bat was like, this guy's stronger than the Yonko. He's not even stronger than the Yonko. He's above Pirate King level. Remember, above Pirate King level was not a thing in One Piece at the start of Elbaf. Joy Boy, Emu were the exceptions, right? But outside of Joy Boy and Emu, the assumption was that in general, Pirate King level is like the peak that we kind of go to when scaling characters, right? But now it feels like Pirate King level is not that big of a deal. I think most of us put him at Zoro level. I think if you go back to polling, like the upper end some people had him at from his introduction was Yonko level, because of the badass design, similar design to Kaido, yada yada. Similar introduction to Kaido. Luffy feeling chills from his haki right off the bat. The Giants hyping up that like it took all the Giants of Elbaf to stop him. So some people did have him at Yonko right off the bat. I saw a lot of Admiral level stuff, and then I saw a lot of Yonko first mate stuff. So it was a varied range, but it was all very, you know, cautious. You know, like a lot of people were like, he's not beating Kizaru, he's not beating Akainu. You know, let alone like it felt very. I put out videos early on saying that Loki is Yonko level as time progressed. So you can go back towards the start of last year, and I'm saying that it looks like Loki probably is meant to be Yonko level. But even I was cautious about it in the sense that I was like, do I feel confident that Loki is above Kaido? No, I wouldn't say I feel confident. I was like, it feels like he's probably comparable because I'm comparing their introductions, right? But I did generally, if you look at my rankings and stuff, I would generally put Loki below Kaido. I think below Big Mom. I felt weird even putting Loki above Luffy. Because it was just like, is Oda going to introduce a character right here that's stronger than Luffy? It felt weird, you know? And now it's just like, okay, obviously. Unless Oda gives Luffy a big buff this arc, which is very possible, you know? Alright, continuing on. Julian Reed, thanks for the 2. We check on the Holy Land situation for an update. That is a bold prediction. That's a bold prediction. We check on the Holy Land situation for an update. Quasi Duck, thanks for bringing up, I like that name. Thanks for being a Pirate King team member for 36 months. Thank you for the long time support. Brook harms Imu's soul slightly by using his soul fruit powers. I love that Oda gave Brook those powers because they allow him to hard counter, like it allowed him to do better in the Big Mom fight than he otherwise would, right? And it could allow him to do decently here. Okay, Brook harms Imu's soul slightly by using his soul fruit abilities. Quasi Duck. Random guy, thanks for the 5. Predictions on who could have the Hellfire Serpent fruit. My only guess is Shamrock. Oda said his significance is tied to what the One Piece is. Whoa, what? Did Oda say that? Did Oda say that? Whoa. Can someone backtrack a second here? Does Shamrock have the Hellfire Serpent? Or did Oda say that Shamrock is tied to what the One Piece itself is? Shamrock having the Hellfire Serpent fruit would be crazy. I think that that's a solid possibility. I feel like he's referring to Shamrock being in the One Piece spread, lol. It's true info. It was mentioned in the latest OP magazine, it seems. Sandman made a post about it, too. I know the mic is... I'm sorry, the mic is... Look, so this is the actual mic. I'm having to use the computer audio mic because this mic is having an issue right now. Oda told his current editor at the time of chapter 1037 that he needs to know what the One Piece treasure is to understand the importance of Shamrock's introduction. Ooh, that's interesting. I think I remember stuff about that. I think I just forgot. I thought it might be a new statement. I think it's in light of the new information that we've been getting with Loki, the dragon, the Hellfire Serpent, that it makes it, like, now do we have more context? Because here's my view, right? So just pausing real quick. I know I got more predictions to catch up on. Just give me a second here, right? So just pausing real quick, right? So, in general, I think Loki versus Hellfire Serpent equals guaranteed, okay? I think Loki versus Shamrock equals very possible, all right? Does Loki fight both, or are they both the same thing? I think Hellfire Serpent equals Red Line, but could it be... I'm just explaining my train of thought here, right? But could it be Shamrock having eaten the fruit? These are the questions. Shamrock also very important to what One Piece is. I don't know. I prefer the idea that Loki versus the Hellfire Serpent... I prefer the idea that the Hellfire Serpent is the Red Line, and tomorrow's video breaks down a lot of evidence towards that. And I think in general, that's the prevailing idea, right? That the red line is housing, or the red line is the Hellfire Serpent, right? Again, watch tomorrow's video. But the Shamrock possibility is also very interesting, and it kind of combines... it merges two potential matchups for Loki into one, which is a bit neater. Because I don't think that Loki... I don't think that Shamrock gets defeated in this arc. Okay? And I don't think that Loki gets 2 fights in the final saga. Okay? So, with that in mind, is it likely that Loki simply fights Shamrock, and Shamrock is the Hellfire Serpent? I think that's a possibility. That's a possibility. Anything's possible. Shamrock was very confident that he could still beat Loki even if he was unchained. Yeah, but I just don't really... Like, Luffy thought he could beat Loki. Luffy was like, if Loki does bad stuff, I'll just beat him up and defeat him. And I don't think Luffy can beat Loki, personally. You know, like, in the grand scheme of things, I take... When characters say they think that they can beat this character or that character, I take that with a grain of salt, right? Kizaru straight up was like, you want me to go fuck up Kaido and Big Mom? And Kaido was like, hold on, Kizaru. Forget Kaido and Big Mom, what about the samurai? Which is just one of the funniest conversations imaginable. It's like, it's essentially, one, Kizaru saying that, you want me to go beat up 2 Yonko at the same time? And Akainu's response isn't like, whoa, man, are you fucking drunk? Like, what are you talking about? His response is like, no, Kizaru. You won't be able to beat Kinemon. And it's just like, are these guys, what are these guys? These guys fucking high? What are they, what kind of batshit crazy conversation is this? Like, what are you talking about? I don't know. You know, like, Don Krieg thought he could beat Mihawk. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially when it's bad guys, you know, when it's villains talking like they can beat up characters, I take it with a grain of salt. Because it's just like, they're bad guys. Like, they're supposed to be, you know, full of themselves and overconfident. Not that good guys can't also be like that. But, like, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't take a character at their word every time when they think that they can beat this other character, you know? Luffy counters Loki's lightning and blunt force hammering, though? No, blunt force... No, because Haki doesn't... Haki... I agree with the lightning, but not the blunt force thing. The whole blunt force thing is... Blunt force works on Luffy if the opponent is using Haki. That's very important. Kizaru is definitely high wall. Yeah, but what's Akainu's excuse? Anyway. Okay, continuing on. Mr. Cameron, thanks for the 5. Anyone think the reason Loki calls Shanks a coward is because he refused to attack the world government with him and instead he fought Loki to stop him? I think that's an entirely possible reason. I think that's a very possible in-character reason. Also, let's get stream likes up to 100 real quick. Tom9739, thanks for the 2. Lola wanted to marry everyone but Loki. Yeah, that's the really funny thing. But I think that may not have been due to Loki himself. I think that may have been more so due to, in retrospect, right? It may have been more so due to Lola wanting to be free from Big Mom's control, and Big Mom was kind of wanting to leverage that for political gain, right? So it was for the freedom aspect. But I think also if Lola did love Loki, she would have just gone for it regardless, you know? Tio Trevisa, thanks for the 2. Do you think They Will Meet is Loki and Luffy? No. I think They Will Meet is a lot bigger than just that. Crow Stray got thanks to 5. Luffy and Loki have a fierce altercation with Sommer since it seems like they're all in the same vicinity. I don't even know what an altercation with Sommers would look like. Like, I don't... It would just be Sommers dying, right? Because, like, fucking Rayleigh zero diffed... Like, you know... What would a fight even look like? You know? Rayleigh by himself... one-shot at Sommers with zero effort. So, what would Luffy and Loki do to him, right? That would just be a... That wouldn't be even a fight. That would be like, put it this way, I don't think that he'd have any more difficulty with Sommers than he did against the MMAs. That's what I was looking up. Here, I'll put down your prediction, of course, though. Luffy and Loki fight Sommers. Crow Stray God. Cody Abbott thanks to 2. Lola fumbled the bag. Loki top 2 to 5 in the verse. I mean, it means that she's more of a personality. I think that's pretty cool. I think that says a lot for Lola. I think it's funny that, you know, she goes for everybody but doesn't go after Loki, but that means that she actually does have some sort of standards. It's just not traditional standards, you know? Like, she's looking for something else. Maybe she's looking for, like, a kinder person. Not that Loki's not kind, but, you know, maybe he's just not her type. Mr. Jer, thanks for the 11. How do you think Luffy is going to react when he sees Imu in his true form? Shadowy figure. If Luffy gives Imu a silly nickname, that would confirm for me that Blackbeard would be the final villain. I think it's a really, really good point. How the Luffy and Imu initial interaction goes, to me will suggest a lot as to their future. I personally think that no matter what, it's not going to be like a silly interaction. Even if Luffy's not even going to fight Imu. Let's say Imu is defeated by a team alliance. I can't imagine... Because, like, even Luffy and Luffy never ended up fighting Big Mom himself, right? But even with Luffy and Big Mom, Luffy's first interactions with Big Mom were very serious. His first 2 interactions with Big Mom were over the phone, by the way, which I think is very funny. First at Fishman Island, and then at Whole Cake Island, right? But all of Luffy's encounters with Big Mom have been fairly serious. He started being more cavalier towards Big... Luffy had... Oh my god. I will be disappointed forever that Oda... I feel like he built so much around Luffy and Big Mom, and then just it didn't go anywhere. Because Luffy and Big Mom's dynamic is one of the most fleshed out of Luffy and any villains, because, again, warning thrown at Fishman Island, right? So declaration of war essentially at Fishman Island. Then again at Whole Cake, the whole raid, getting captured, his heated argument with Big Mom over the Denden Mushi while Luffy was captured there. Then at the tea party, Luffy's big, he clashed with Big Mom. They kind of threw down. They had words. Luffy promising Katakuri that he'll one day defeat Big Mom. Then Big Mom comes to Wano to fuck up Luffy, and Luffy has this whole battle with Big Mom in Udon. Not battle, encounter with Big Mom in Udon. He actually gets a Haki Bloom against Big Mom there. And so all of that setup and build up, and then we get to the Onigashima raid, and then all of a sudden Luffy's treating Big Mom like I don't even care about you, which is weird to me because so far Luffy has cared very much about Big Mom. But, like, Luffy runs into Big Mom at the banquet hall, and Luffy's basically like, I just don't even care about you. I'm here to fight Kaido. It feels strange to me, just because there has been so much buildup between Luffy and Big Mom. Like, more than Luffy and Doflamingo, more than, like, Luffy and Anna, more than with Luffy and most villains, and I just feel like that went nowhere, and I just feel like it was a strange twist that once Luffy's face-to-face with Big Mom yet again for, like, the umpteenth time in the banquet hall, like, Luffy's dynamic with Big Mom is, in fact, far more fleshed out at that point than Luffy versus Kaido, but Luffy just suddenly doesn't really care about Big Mom. Like, he treats her like she's, like, a random villain. I always thought that was weird. Anyway, I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but Luffy and Imu, if Luffy already starts out with that energy towards Imu, like he doesn't really care, I think that suggests that Imu will not be the final villain. But if Luffy does very much care about Imu and he's like, oh shit, like this guy's a problem or whatever, then that I think is the bare minimum for continuing the potentiality of the potential of Imu being the final villain, right? So put it this way, just because if Luffy has a serious encounter with Imu and is like, this guy's bad news, I'm gonna fuck him up one day, that on its own, funnily enough, doesn't mean that that's still gonna happen, that Imu's gonna be the final villain. That's like the bare minimum for Imu at least keeping his potential status as final villain. If Luffy treats Imu as like kind of a joke from the beginning, like who's the shadowy guy, ha ha ha, then that completely shuts off the possibility of Imu being the final villain. So basically, bare minimum to keep the idea alive of Imu as final villain, we need Luffy treating Imu seriously right off the bat. But even that's not a guarantee that Luffy versus Imu is the final battle. Tio Treviso, thanks for the 2. How likely is Shamrock to be above Pirate King level in percentage? I would honestly say 50%, which sounds fucking insane. Insane. Let's say 40%. Let's say 40%. But the reason I'm saying above is because, like, the reason I'm giving that percentage is because, one, right, like, I think Shamrock's range is very high. It's a very high range, right? It's the same range I'm giving to this set of characters, which is Shanks, Mihawk, Dragon, Shamrock, kind of Akainu, right? I'm giving them all the same range, which is Yonko through potentially above Pirate King. I give them a wide range. With Shamrock, there's kind of just 2 routes to the story. Not 2 routes exactly. How do I explain this, okay? So, if Shamrock is Shanks' twin, obviously, and amped by Imu's powers, right? But he doesn't have the battle experience of Shanks, right? So let's say Shanks straight up did defeat Loki, meaning that Shanks is above Pirate King level. Then, if Shamrock is equal to or even comparable to Shanks, then Shamrock is above Pirate King level, right? If that's the route, right? It doesn't, like, even if Shanks is that level, that doesn't mean that Shamrock is, though. Right? Because Shamrock could just be the lesser twin. But the possibility is there, right? But then you add in, okay, well, what if Shamrock ate the Hellfire Serpent fruit? Okay, that's another thing that would put him above Pirate King level. Okay? What if Shamrock is Loki's final opponent? That's another thing that would put him above Pirate King level, right? So, while none of these things are, like, definite, there are a lot of individual possibilities that suggest that Shamrock could be at that level. I just wouldn't bet on it. Right? I think Shamrock is a very wide range. He could be all the way down at, like, down at Yonko level, which is ridiculous to say at this point, but that's the point of the story we're at. Or he could be all the way up at, like, Loki's level, you know? I don't know what the percentage is. That's really hard to call. Like, for fiction, it's really hard to call percentages like that, but, you know, I think it's potentially there. Especially because of Oda's comments about being very important for One Piece, yada yada. Anand Karthik, thanks for the 2. Zoro is Dami Reversi to increase stakes. Zoro is Dami Reversi'd to increase stakes. I don't know if Oda would do that to Zoro. I don't know if Oda would do that to Zoro. Tom9739, thanks for the 5. I agree. I wonder what his reaction would be if he finds the love of his life has proposed to the Straw Hat guys and married also probably Ida and Pudding. Also probably Ida and Pudding Katakuri mouth? I'm really confused by this. Hold on. What would his reaction be if he found out? Okay. Also probably Ida and Pudding question mark Katakuri mouth? I don't know what this means. Probably Ida and Pudding. Probably Ida and Pudding's eye? I don't understand the last part of your statement, Tom9739. But yeah, if Loki found out, actually that'd be really funny. If Loki found out that that the Straw Hats have met Lola, he'd be excited. But then if he found out that she wanted to marry all of them but not him, I think he'd be upset. He doesn't need his heart broken anymore. Mort started Kagurubachi this last week. I did. I haven't progressed any further. I'll probably a little further this week. Let's get the streamlights up to 100 real quick. Oh, sorry, there's a super about this. Joyboy SGLS, thanks for the 10. Yo, Morch, have you read more Kagurabashi? It starts a little generic, but once the broader conflict develops, it becomes great. The action and the amazing spreads keep getting better too. That's the thing that stood out to me. Okay, so first thoughts on Kagurabashi. I'm only 10 chapters in, right? So these are just blind thoughts. I'm not going to judge it based off of 10 chapters. Blind thoughts. Start with the good, right? I think the good is what I'm liking. Amazing spreads, action spreads. I think that it's. I think it might be the most dynamic, I guess, in terms of sword combat or whatever, dynamic action spreads that I've seen in a manga, I think. Might be wrong, I haven't read everything, but that I can recall off the top of my head. Certainly for shonen, I would say that that's the case. Really, really, very visually vivid action spreads. You can feel the movement, okay? I think that's really cool. But then other thoughts are, I feel like it's really just those big spreads so far. Not far along the series. So far, it feels like those big dynamic spreads that the artwork is really amazing. I feel like aside from that, page to page, chapter to chapter, panel to panel, the artwork is very, very simple and generic and doesn't really have a style to it. So I'm not liking that. I imagine it gets better, as you say. Main character, don't really have any personal attachment to just yet. I dislike the fact that we're kind of revolving around this dynamic between this cutesy little kid character and the main characters, I guess. I'm just I think, sorry, one second. When a series tries to push a really cutesy little kid character and just be like, look, it's so cute, how could you not like this cute little kid character? And it's just that's not how I would if you make me care, right, give me a really good backstory or something, but I'm just really getting annoyed by I think it's supposed to make the main character more endearing, that the main character has who's a very stoic character, is being paired with this cute little kid character. I just need more before I actually care. And I'm a little bit annoyed. I'm actually kind of reading and assuming that the kid character gets is a temporary thing, but each chapter the little kid character is still there and just not liking it. And beyond that, I don't know yet how I feel about the power system that we've been told about, which is that there are 7 swords that have great power. So it sounds like there's sorcerers and stuff like that, but in particular there's 7 swords that grant extreme sorcery power, so just 7 special weapons. I generally do not like power systems that revolve around only certain characters being allowed to have special powers because they happen to get the special items that are needed, right? You could say, well, what about One Piece and Devil Fruits? The thing about One Piece and Devil Fruits is twofold. So one, with the Devil Fruits, early on, it did not feel like Devil Fruits were the end-all be-all. Because if you're reading East Blue, it doesn't feel like Luffy's automatically ahead of all the characters he's fighting, or even other characters like Zoro that are on his own crew, just because he has a Devil Fruit, right? The Devil Fruit, because a lot of the fruits early on are kind of silly, right? They're silly. It's oh no, this guy's got Alvida's got the soap fruit or some shit, or the slip fruit or whatever. Buggy can split into parts. Buggy's the least. He's the weakest of the main villains of East Blue. The fruit doesn't the fruits don't feel it's kind of the fruits are cool if you got it, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. As the story progresses, it starts to feel oh no, some of these fruits are really broken. How's it fair that fucking Enel has like lightning, and Aokiji has ice, and Kizaru has this stuff or whatever. But then that's quickly balanced out by Haki, right? So then it goes back to being like, okay, fruits are like cool if you got them, and they add another dimension to combat. But it's not like ultimately at the end of the day, like you don't need a fruit. Like it's good to have, not necessary, right? Even right now, when we're getting like crazy fruits, like Loki's fruit, well, we were told that Loki supposedly lost to Shanks. Whether that happened or not, we don't know. But Loki supposedly lost to Shanks, who doesn't have a fruit, right? Mihawk doesn't have a fruit, you know? And Loki, the fruit is a part of why he's so strong, but he's really strong regardless, you know? Yeah, so that's I'm going off on a big tangent there, but I don't like I prefer stories where like any character kind of has the potential or ability to have really strong abilities, and it's not contingent on which characters happen to get special items handed to them. So right off the bat, that's something that I don't like about the basis of Kagurabachi, but it's very early in the story. I don't know if I'm going to feel that way as the story progresses. Does that make sense? The swords are like nuclear swords in the world. Yeah, I kind of just don't like that, because I guess the equivalent in One Piece would be like, okay, there's 7 ancient weapons, and which characters manage to get the ancient weapons are going to be the strongest. I generally don't like that, personally. Oh, Anand Karthik says, yeah, true, the swords really make it break why a character is strong. Everyone without it is not on the same level by default, more or less. That's not something that I personally like in a power system. You know, that's just me. One thing I really like in One Piece is that when it comes to swords and weapons, that the sword doesn't really matter that much. Like, we've been told that, you know, Mihawk has the world's strongest sword, Zoro upgrades by getting better swords and stuff, but it's not like he switches from, you know, it's not like he switches from one set of swords to another and he's like, now like 5 times, like, not, like way stronger, you know? It's like, it's soft upgrades. Enma was the only time it was a big upgrade, but it was clarified that with Enma, it's not like it has it's not like it creates Haki for Zoro out of thin air. Enma just brings more of Zoro's own ability out, right? So it's a little bit different in that regard, right? Like, put it this way, when Zoro fights Mihawk, I'm not going to be thinking, oh, this is unfair because Mihawk's technically got a higher grade sword than Zoro. It'll be more like, yeah, Mihawk's got the better sword, but that's fine, right? Like, it's not unfair. Like, when Zoro was first fighting Ryuma, you know, the zombie Ryuma, it wasn't like, oh, Ryuma's winning because of the sword. The sword's just like a nice bonus, you know? Bleach has a better sword/weapon system? Well, because Bleach's swords are, that's just your own ability, right? Like, the swords are, your own ability is being manifested through the sword, right? All swords are otherwise pretty much fundamentally the same. You know, you got, like, odd outliers where Oetsu is like, this sword is just too sharp and it can cut through pretty much anything, but that's like a random one-off. Aside from that, you kind of assume that all Bleach swords are roughly the same, and it's more so based on the main character's power, you know? Yeah. Sword grades don't even mean anything unless you have a magic sword like Enma. I mean, I just have never thought in One Piece at any point, like, a fight has been decided by who has the higher quality sword. Especially since Haki became a thing. Because with Haki being a thing, now supposedly swords aren't even supposed to be touching, you know? So it's like, at that point, what does it even matter? Oh, Pasty Cash, thanks for the 5. Emu will see Luffy and Loki and think of Joy Boy and the dragon from the mural. Ooh, that's an interesting idea. Hold on, I like that. Emu will see Luffy and Loki, and think... Oh, whoops, I forgot to give credit for the Dom University Zoro. My bad. That's from Anand Karthik. Thank you. Luffy will see Imu and Loki, and think of Joy Boy and the dragon from the mural. Tom9739, thanks for the 2. My bad, Pudding 3i being ostracized like Loki. Oh, yeah. Yeah, characters in One Piece are ostracized for really random things. Because, like, there's literally characters who have, like, there's characters who have, like, in Loketown, there's a character who's got a chin that is literally shaped like a hotel. Like a hotel chin guy. I'm not fucking joking. Loketown hotel guy. Fuck, where was this character? Yeah, like this character. Does this character have, like, a history of, like, deep, of deep social ostracization? Like, does this character, like, he seems to be doing well. He's running a hotel. People don't, like, Stelly, who's an asshole, doesn't say anything about his chin. And I think this guy is more of a freak than, I shouldn't say it like that, but my point being that One Piece is a universe where so many characters have just such weird, bizarre, it's so cartoonishly designed that so many characters have, like, weird, bizarre, comical deformities, you would say, in real life, that it just doesn't make sense at all to, like, try and be like, okay, but this specific thing just creates extreme ostracization. Like, they're really got a problem with, like, it's okay if you've got a fucking building as your chin with holes in it. Everyone's cool with that. This guy doesn't have to, like, wear bandages to fucking hide that. But God forbid some of your teeth are pointy. Gotta hide that shit forever. Because they will laugh you out in the streets. I think that just does not work with the world that Oda's created. So, I don't know. I think that's kind of silly, personally. But, you know, it's whatever rules Oda makes is what Oda makes. Like, all I'm thinking is, like, if I'm Katakuri, I'd be fucking pissed, though, because it's like, oh my god, everybody's, like, laughing at me and calling me, what, like, a gulper fish or, like, a eel or something, whatever they're calling me, like, oh my god, they laugh and point when I'm out in the streets. I'm like, I'd be like, well, that fucking dude, he gets to run a hotel, and he's got a fucking building for a chin with holes in it. Why is everyone making fun of that guy? They'd be like, nah, that guy's fucking normal. Normal as fuck. It's your teeth that we got a problem with. Like, what about the hotel dude? What's wrong? Why is that normal? Alright, anyway. It kind of falls into the category, I think. It's different, but it falls into the category of, like, the Kaido and Gedatsu situation. Which is, like... you guys know what I'm getting at? Which is that in some areas, Oda wants to play things serious. Where it's like... Kaido is a character that's able to literally fall from the sky all the way down to the earth. And get up and be perfectly fine, and that's supposed to be like, oh my god, that's like so crazy and mind-blowing, right? He can't even kill himself. That's so crazy. Like, he commits suicide from jumping off a sky island, and he can't even kill himself. What an insanely powerful character, right? But the problem is that Oda also likes his gags a lot, so it's like, yeah, but for a joke, you already made Gedatsu do this way back in Skypiea. So, it's when you think about it, it's a little hard to take seriously, like Kaido jumping off the Sky Island and the appropriate weight that that's supposed to carry, when you've already basically said that this can happen as a gag, you know? So, like, that's just one of the things. You know, it's not the same. Like, obviously, different Katakuri versus the Hotel Guy. It's a different idea than the more power scaling aspect of Kaido versus Gadatsu. But it's just one of those things where sometimes Oda just makes a big joke out of something that he then later on in the story is like, in a pretty much identical situation, he's like, oh, but I want to do it seriously here. And it's like, okay, but you've created a universe where this stuff can be a bit more cartoonish anyway. So it's a little tricky, you know? Cody Abbott, thanks for the 5. Gun to your head currently, who do you have ending up stronger, Dragon or Shanks? If you got to gamble on it, and both Pirate King Plus level or not. Gun to my head. See, some time ago I had Dragon, if you look at my latest, like, if you look at my previous top 30s and stuff, but now the more that I think about it, because, like, now I'm thinking more about, the problem is, like, ultimately the author is going to lean towards their favorite characters, right? I feel like Oda likes Shanks more. I feel like Oda likes Shanks more. I think that Oda, like, if you read interviews and statements and stuff like that, because now, like, so before when I had Dragon above Shanks, I was kind of, like, ignoring some, not ignoring, but it was kind of, like, some statements, like, Shanks and Joy Boys Hockey being comparable or whatever, right? In my mind, it was like, at that time, I was like, okay, well, probably other characters like Roger, like Prime Roger and stuff like that also have hockey of that level. But now the further that the story has gone, we've realized since then that no, Pirate King level, it's really not close to Joy Boy's level, right? There's a level above that, which is like Loki, stuff like that, right? But now you're putting together some rumors and statements about Shanks, and it's like, okay, when Dory and Brogy are talking about, like, Shanks' hockey being comparable to Joy Boy, it's weird that they're mentioning them and not these other legends that they've met, like Roger and stuff, but now it kind of makes sense. It's like, okay, well, Roger wouldn't be close to Joy Boy's hockey, but could Shanks actually be? Like, maybe we're taking that statement, like, a bit more seriously now, like, that is the one character that they're talking of, right? I'm putting that in conjunction with us now learning how strong Loki is, and the possibility that Shanks straight up did defeat Loki, and it's just like, okay, if that's true, then Shanks has better feats, you know? If we're just putting together the pieces of, like, if we're taking the ideas that are being put out there around Shanks of, like, hockey comparable to Joy Boy, defeated Loki, right? If we're taking those for the truth, which they very well could be at this point, I don't know if I would bet on Dragon being above Shanks. My feeling is that they're supposed to be comparable characters. Oda really loves Shanks. He's pretty much stated that Shanks is kind of like his self-insert into the story. I would go with the character that the author probably prefers more. I think Oda loves a ton of his characters, but I think Shanks might be his baby. So, here's how I would put it. If I had to do ranking lists, then I would go ahead and put, I would put Shanks lower. I would put Mihawk above Shanks. I would do stuff like that if I'm doing rankings lists. Because those are things where I just want to go based off things that feel a bit more tangible, I think. Like, we know that, as far as we can tell, Shanks is a pure swordsman. Mihawk should be above him, stuff like that. As far as we know, Shanks being above Roger, we don't have any hard visual proof or anything like that of that yet, right? But if you're asking me gun to my head, then I'm going to go with my gut instinct. And my gut instinct is not something that I have to justify logically, right? It's just my gut instinct. Gut instinct, I would be like, I would bet on Shanks being a lot higher than even some people think. Gut instinct, I would still go with Shanks. But I'm not going to use that. So that's two different things. Does that make sense? If I'm going with reasoning, if I'm trying to make arguments or whatever, then I would probably see Shanks being lower than other characters like Dragon, Mihawk, etc. But if you're asking me gun in my head, like, go with your gut, what do you actually think Oda's going to do by the end of the story? My feeling is that Oda's probably going to reveal Shanks being a lot stronger than we think. That's all. Because that's his baby. I think that's his baby alongside Luffy. You know? I think there are 3 characters in the story that Oda... Like, if you just look at the entirety of One Piece, that Oda clearly has, as much as he may try to not... I think there's 3 characters that Oda has a clear soft spot for, and a clear bias towards, in terms of, like, just giving them that little extra oomph and little extra aura, whatever. It's Luffy. Luffy's a given, right? Luffy, Shanks, Zoro. I think it's those 3. So, he just likes those, right? That's just, if you're just looking at it throughout One Piece, what are the patterns you see? Yeah, so you don't generally want to bet against those characters, I think. I would say that. Yeah, I mean, people are pushing back on this, which is like, what do you call? People are pushing back on this with arguments and stuff. That's fine. I'm not putting Shanks as high based on arguments. I already explained that. If you want to feel like you won the argument, that's okay. I will cede that to you. You're just asking me gut. Like gun to my head, I would go with my gut. And that's basically, my feeling is that Oda's going to roll with his baby. An author is generally going to value their self-insert. Because, like, it's the author writing the story, right? These aren't real characters. These aren't real people. There's a human being that's determining these characters' strengths, etc., where they stack. Just naturally, an author is going to have a preference for making their self-insert above other characters. That's just the way that it is. That's the way most people work, right? That's all. We can get into the nitty-gritty of arguments, but I'm just going with that. Like, that's why my gut tells me Shanks. It's just the way that Oda kind of treats him and hypes him throughout the story, and Oda's own preference for the character, his stated preference, yada yada. That's all. I'm not going to use that for ranking Shanks in, like, top 30s and stuff. So these are 2 different discussions, you know? Aryan the Hall, thanks for the 2. Enma or Ifrit / Germa ability regards to upgrades. Enma or Ifrit / Germa ability. I think Ifrit and Germa is a way bigger buff than Enma. Way bigger buff. Because Enma essentially took, like... To be fair, okay, so... Sanji... prior to Wano, prior to the upgrades, right, was, if we're being very straightforward, he was like mid Tobiropo level, at best. I think Sanji fans will be upset to hear that, but that is just very, he had all of his feats establish him at about mid Tobiropo level. And he has a lot of showings. He's got a ton of showings throughout the post-time skip. All of them show him at basically being mid-Tobiropo level. Okay? Nothing suggested Sanji was commander level or anything like that throughout the post-time skip until he got those upgrades. So the upgrades basically took him, I'd say like, the exoskeleton took him from like about mid Tobi Roppo level to even with Queen. And then Ifrit Jambe puts him well above Queen, right? So like now you can debate whatever. Is Sanji Yonko first mate level? Some people think he's definitely Yonko first mate level. Some people think he's not quite Yonko first mate level. Some people think he's at the bottom of Yonko first mate level. But now he's basically, debatably or whatever, in that range, right? At the very least, the stronger than any Yonko second commander, probably, right? Maybe Lucky Roo if people want to be sticklers. I don't know. So that's a big jump. With Zoro, before and like all of his showings beforehand basically suggest that he probably coming out of the time skip, he probably wasn't quite commander level, but he would clearly fuck up any character that is like he probably wasn't quite on par with like Doflamingo, Gear 4 Luffy and stuff like that, but it seemed like he would fuck up characters that are Tobi Roppo level, right? He's got a lot of showings that suggest that. So Zoro with Enma, that basically bumped him to like from like just below commander level to probably just below Yonko first mate level, which is a smaller leap. You know? Yeah. I mean, like, Sanji got multiple, like, I don't want, I don't know if Sanji fans will get upset to hear that, but you really shouldn't, because it's like, one, Zoro and Luffy had the advantage of a much better trainer, right? So, like, it shouldn't, yeah, if you give Sanji fucking Rayleigh or Scopper Gaban to train from in the time skip instead of Ivankov, then I'm sure he would have done better, you know? And Sanji's focus was split between training, hockey, and stuff versus recipes. So he needed some additional, like, Luffy and Zoro were just, like, fucking try-hard grinding on the ladder, basically, 24/7, where Sanji was like, I got other shit to do. I got hobbies, you know? Or sorry, fighting's my hobby. My main thing is, like, I'm getting better at, like, he was doing both, right? He was doing both, right? He's got other shit to do, right? They're basically were like, Luffy and Zoro are basically like people who spent the whole time skip like with training being their full-time job, and Sanji was doing a full-time job plus getting a master's at the same time, right? It's not a fair comparison. So it's not like a slight on Sanji. And what matters more so is like, did he catch up later? Yeah, I think most people would be like, he's caught up now. Like, you could debate that Zoro and Sanji are both Yonko first mate level at this point, right? Like, not everyone will agree, but now that's a fair debate. Whereas, I think before, pretty much all showings indicated that Zoro would not lose to Tobi Roppo level guys, right? Like, he would fuck up characters like Pika or whatever. Whereas, Sanji was clearly struggling with characters like Daifuku, Page One, Virgo, no shot whatsoever versus Doflamingo, right? Like, he was very clearly not on that commander level. Alright, continuing on. Teptio Treviso, thanks for the 2. In Kagurubachi, there is an enchanted blade agenda like in Jujutsu Kaisen. What does that mean? Enchanted blade agenda? Also, let's get the stream lights up to 100 real quick because we're almost there. What does enchanted blade agenda mean? Does Jujutsu Kaisen have an enchanted blade agenda? I don't like... Jujutsu Kaisen, one of the things that I don't like are cursed tools and cursed objects. Cursed tools and cursed objects just don't make sense to me. It does not make sense why they cannot destroy Sukuna fingers. It just straight up does not make sense. Because, like, they can destroy other shit. Like, they can destroy Sukuna's body. Like, if you can kill Sukuna, which they do, why can't they destroy his fingers? I just feel like Jujutsu Kaisen has some things that I don't know. I don't like cursed tools and cursed weapons because I'm just like, well, fucking give Gojo the inverted spear of heaven. Why didn't Gojo just fucking use it? You know? Like, why did he get rid of it? Why was it only Toji is allowed to use it? I don't know. I don't like, yeah, I don't know. It just feels like there's randomly really, really broken weapons, but then for some reason strong characters just don't use them. And it's only allowed to go to certain characters that are specifically like, we're weapons users. It's like, this weapon counters every cursed ability. Why the fuck wouldn't someone like Gojo use this? Why is Yuta walking around with a normal fucking sword instead of the inverted Spear of Heaven or whatever the fuck? Like, it just, I don't know. The Dream Sama, thanks for being a Supernova member for 6 months. Luffy sees the Nika, I'm gonna say mural and say that it looks like him. Let's say that, okay? Luffy sees the Nika image and says it looks like him. The Dream Sama. I guess I just don't like abilities in stories that feel cheap in the sense that they're not something organic to the character themselves. It's just something that they picked up. I generally don't like that. The exception for me is situations where it feels like they had to earn that, or like they're specifically chosen and like the special thing won't work for anybody else. So for example, I like Loki being the only one who can wield Ragnar because he like, it's not like anyone can just pick up Ragnar, right? Ragnar chose Loki, so it's kind of like that feels organic to him in a sense. Like, Kaido could show up and Ragnar would not choose to work for him, you know? Ragnar kind of recognizes Loki as its you know, as its innate master, right? So to me, I still count that. But generally speaking, I don't like things in stories where there's like some super broke weapon or something and a character just picks it up and then now they can use it and that's part of their thing. The nightmare version of Nika. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's use the Nika MMA. Oh, JWP, thanks for gifting 5 memberships, man. Thanks a lot. Everybody in chat, say shouts to JWP. Shouts to JWP, especially if you just got a membership from him. Definitely say your thanks to JWP. Yeah, thanks as usual, man. I hope you're enjoying One Piece. And definitely watch out for tomorrow's video. Tomorrow's video is a good one. It's a pretty good one. JWP, thanks for the 10. Any thoughts on why the old gen were hockey men, but the top new gen have fruits? Garp, Roger, Harold, Rocks versus Blackbeard, Loki, Luffy. Can hockey only go so far that you need both? Emu and Joy Boy top 2 with both. I mean, Joy Boy had the best of both worlds, right? Because Joy Boy, it seems like he has better hockey than even the old gen, but also like a top tier fruit, right? So my simple thoughts on why the old gen were hockey men, but the top new gen have fruits, is because Oda doesn't, like, fruits are very, fruits are, how do I say this? To me, this is more like just, it's a meta reason, in that characters like Rocks, Roger, they're not, Rocks, Roger, Harold, they're in the story, but they're not going to take up that much space in the story, right? Like, they're flashback characters. So, to me, the simple reason is just that Oda didn't want to write, like, use up, quote unquote, use up fruit ideas on them. Does that make sense? It's kind of like, why write, like, some really cool fruit for these past characters when they're just gonna, what do you call it? They're temporary in a sense. Like, they're not going to be long, like, we're just going to see them fight a few times, really, in the flashback, and really just quick clashes, you know? You can give them a really cool fruit, but it almost feels a waste. And you might say that, well then, why didn't Oda just give them fruits that we already know about? You know, like, give Roger, like, Kizaru's fruit, you know? But I think that doing stuff like that inherently takes away some of the uniqueness of, like, characters nowadays having those special fruits, you know? I think that's why Whitebeard kind of proves that reasoning to me in some capacity, because Whitebeard is the one old gen character that Oda gave a really important fruit to. Why? Because Whitebeard is a character that was a major character in the modern day story, right? So of course Oda's going to be like, yeah, like, this is the world's strongest man today. Let me give him a cool fruit, the Guruguru no Mi. Like, Whitebeard is essentially still a modern day character, right? Same with Big Mom, same with Kaido, right? So if you look at the old gen, the God Valley characters, all the characters that were still very prominent today, that we get entire arcs around, like Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, those are the characters that Oda was cool with giving fruits to, because you're coming up with these creative ideas, right? Like the earthquake fruit, right? The life fruit, right? The ability to give life to things and do all these elemental things, right? Kaido's whole dragon fruit is very complex in its abilities. You don't want to give those fruits to characters that, like, you know, give it to Rox. Rox is, we see him fight like 10 pages total or something like that. He dies, like, he's a flashback character. So I figure it's not using up those ideas, right? That's my reasoning. And technically Whitebeard dies and his fruit is repeated by Blackbeard, but that's a major plot point, right? Like, that's a whole storyline around getting to this fruit, you know? If you give Roger, you know, some fruit like Yamato's fruit or something, it just feels kind of random that, like, we have Yamato's fruit and then Roger had Yamato's fruit in the past. It kind of, you want characters' abilities to feel kind of unique to them. And the exceptions where you're repeating fruits are like Ace to Sabo, Whitebeard to Blackbeard. Those are major plot points, right? Where there's actually a lot of significance to character A's fruit being passed down to character B, right? But for characters like the old gen, Roger, Rox, Harold, right? If you're designing some really special fruit specifically for them, well, then it's not going to be used much in the story because they're going to die, right? And if alternatively you're using a fruit that you've already got in the main storyline, right? Like a fruit, like an Admiral fruit, like the Ice fruit or the Magma fruit, and you're just giving it to Roger, Rox, or Harold in the past, well, then that can kind of take away from the uniqueness of, like, well, Akainu's the Magma guy, you know? Akainu's the Magma guy, but in the past, fucking Roger had the Magma fruit, you know? It just feels kind of weird. That's also why I think, like, some of the fruits that we have seen repeated, right? Like, Captain John's fruit, the magnetism fruit, right? Or, what do you call, the bomb fruit, right? Or, the Mr. 2 fruit or the barrier fruit. Those are all fruits that Oda's giving to minor characters in the past, rather than the major players, because it, like, that way Kid remains kind of in our mind mainly the magnetism guy, and it's kind of like, oh, Captain John also had that, right? Mr. 2 remains in our mind like the Mane Mane no Mi guy, and it's like, oh, well, this fruit also happened to have been used by this minor character in the past, right? But does that make sense? Like, if you take a fruit, I know I'm really over-explaining this, but I'm just trying to explain, like, why it makes sense from a writer perspective. It's just that, like Kizaru's the, like, a lot of the characters today their fruits are a big part of their identity, and if you copy those fruits and give them to even more important characters in the past, like Roger or Rox or Harold, then that kind of infringes on the modern day character's uniqueness, you know? Especially because Roger, Rox, Harold, they're big time important characters, but we're not going to see them fighting that much even, right? And then, so that also is incentive to not invent entirely new fruits to give them. Does that make sense? What's your in-world reason? If we have to make some in-world headcanon up, My in-world headcanon would be that the the in-world headcanon would be I think that era. No, I don't have a good in. Okay, here's my in-world headcanon, right? In-world headcanon is that in that era, like if we piece through the characters, right? Um, I think there's not a good in-world. If Rox has a fine headcanon in the sense that um, Rox was holding out for that one special fruit he's talking about. He's like, there's two fruits that I need, right? So one goes to Harold, but presumably he would eat the other one, right? So Rox, it makes sense. Um, but then beyond that, it's like Harold was probably too strong. Like, there's no need for him to eat a fruit. Like, he's so strong. He's the strongest on the ocean for like a good 100 years or whatever. All humans are essentially weaker than him till Rox comes along. So for Harold, there's no point in eating a fruit to power up because all it'll do is make you unable to swim, right? Like, it'll make you stronger, but when you're already the strongest, why do you need that? And now you can't even swim, and you spend your entire life sailing the seas, so it's not a good trade-off, right? Garp, I don't have a fucking good reason. Roger, I don't have good reasons for the other ones. It just doesn't really follow. It's also interesting because like it's not like the Roger pirates didn't find fruits. They found fruits. Like that's how Buggy and Shanks' whole falling out happened. Like they find devil fruits and stuff in the ocean. Yeah, and I have no explanation for why Shanks and his crew don't want to eat fruits. Because now it's just like, listen, like this is the current era of emperors and stuff like that. So it's highly competitive in this time period, you know? Like you want to take any advantage you can get, right? Like Kaido's out here investing like billions of berry, I imagine, in creating a crew full of artificial fruit users. That's how desperate characters are to get more fruits in their hands, right? I don't know. Gokula Krishnam. Thanks. Taptir Treviso, thanks for the 2. Toby Ropo level literally sounds like pure slander. It's not quite right. It's not fair because Toby Ropo has now come to sound slanderous just because it does. It inherently does. But we don't have a better word for it. It's essentially the level below commanders, right? And it's easy to forget, but commander level is really high, right? Like Luffy, without Gear 4th, was Toby Ropo level. Literally. Like, Luffy without Gear 4th was Toby Ropo level for pretty much the entirety of, up until Wano. And even in Wano, you could argue that, because Wano, he did the Udon training, right? Even in Wano, you could argue that Luffy was still roughly, like, I would still, Luffy without Gear 4th, I would still favor against any Toby Ropo, but we already saw, it's not like without Gear 4th, Luffy was genuinely having difficulty with ulti. Like, he lost a Haki Clash with ulti, you know? He was gonna go Gear 4th to handle ulti in page 1. I would still argue that he would beat either of them one-on-one, but that was like after Luffy's done so much like he's trained his observation, he's gotten advanced observation Haki and advanced armament Haki at this point, and it's still not easy for him to just roll over Toby Ropo level characters, you know? So it's not like an insult. It just sounds like an insult because we now mentally associate, I think people mentally associate Toby Ropo level with basically like, fucking Robin beat a Toby Ropo, Frankie, beat a Toby Ropo, but like they are legitimately strong characters in the grand scheme of things in the One Piece world. Toby Ropo level essentially refers to characters that are right below that commander tier. It's characters that are still strong, like Perospero, Daifuku, Oven, Snack, I would say probably. We haven't really seen much of him, but he got demoted. He's obviously not worthy of being a commander, right? Stuff like that. Virgo, good example of Toby Ropo level, like strong, like he feels like a threat in Punk Hazard, right? Pika would definitely be Toby Ropo level. You know, he's Pika's definitely way stronger than a character like Black Maria. Toby Ropo level, it's higher than you would. It's not like embarrassing to be Toby Ropo level in the New World. It's actually significant. That would probably put you as like a Doflamingo seat. It would put you as one of the alongside the top veterans of Big Mom's crew. It would put you in the Flying Six on Kaido's crew. You know that's like it's strong. It's just not you're not a Yonko commander. And I think in the One Piece New World, Yonko commanders, that's like the level that we really look at. It's like, okay, now you're like legit, you know? Because that's what we saw in the Marine Ford War. Um, Taptir Treviso, thanks for the 5. I meant that Enchanted Blade got memes on, like, Jujutsu Kaisen characters did, and basically treated as if they were actually characters with an agenda. Okay, I guess I just don't understand. Got memed on, like, Jujutsu Kaisen characters did, and basically treated as if they were actually characters within it. I guess I don't know what that means. I guess I gotta read more Kagurabachi to understand what that means. Julian Reed, thanks for the 2. How many likes for another Law hate rant? Sure, get to 100, I'll give you guys another Law hate rant. But it won't have my genuine passion in it. So that's a warning. Drinkwater, dot 10, thanks for the 5. Sanji will touch Sommer's thorns around Robin, and it will be equivalent to Zoro tanking Luffy's pain in Thriller Bark. His love for her is strong. Sure, yeah, that'd be funny. Not funny, but, you know. I would hope that any Straw Hat that would be hurt by touching those thorns, right? All right. Sanji will touch Somers' thorns around Robin, and it will be equivalent. No, I'm not gonna. And it will be. Oh yeah. Be similar to nothing happened. Drink water. It's interesting that we're getting more Sanji Robin stuff lately, like obviously between Wano and this arc, just because Sanji and Nami has, like, obviously Sanji still dotes on Robin and everything like that, but it's always been like a little bit secondary to Sanji Nami. Because Sanji's really, really obsessed with Nami, right? Like, he's always talking about Nami. His focus has always been Nami, yada yada. So I think it's cool that we're getting some additional reminder that, like, Sanji is also very much about, you know, like, that his... it extends to Robin as well, even if you might say that Nami's his number one object of affection. Object doesn't sound good, but, you know, the apple of his eye, whatever. Eric, what's up, man? Thanks for the 2. Shanks doesn't want Devil Fruit because he knows about the flood. Hey, that's entirely possible. I mean, I feel like knowing about the flood wouldn't... Look, all I say is that if a flood's coming, I'm not planning on being fucking, like, swimming. I'm planning on being in a boat. But, I think knowing about the flood, it's still... Like, the Grand Line is so tumultuous that the fact that the water level is going to rise even further wouldn't really change in my mind, like, oh, I need to know how to swim. Because the Grand Line's already got so many storms and crazy weather patterns and stuff, like, needing to be able to swim is already very important, you know? Top tiers just fly at this point? I don't know if Shanks can fly, though. I don't think so. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. And even if that explained why Shanks didn't need one, it's like... What about Garp in Roger and Rayleigh and Gabon and stuff, you know? Because Roger, Rayleigh, and Gabon, I could almost imagine not eating. Like, with Garp, though, the tricky thing is, like, to catch pirates better, I know that the Marines, it's likely that the Marines supply their best soldiers with good fruits, because we see that all the Admiral level characters have, like, crazy powerful fruits, right? And with the Marine resources, it's just logical that, you know, if you've got really strong prospects in the Marines, then you would give them a really powerful fruit to really, like, facilitate them becoming the strongest version of themselves, right? So I'm sure Garp was offered fruits, he just didn't want them. I've headcanoned before that, like, a large part of it might be that genuinely so many fights happen at sea that it could potentially be a bigger disadvantage to have. Like, we're biased, right? Because, like, in our minds, who cares if you have a devil fruit that makes you not be able to swim? Like, think about, like, the benefits. Like, the benefits are huge. But we're biased because Oda has tailored the story in a manner to deliberately make it so the Strahds are almost never fighting high-level battles at sea, right? Um, you know, like, they'll fight random fodder, like flying fish riders. Even fighting the flying fish riders, Luffy actually got caught up and had to be saved after he went underwater, I think. Right? So stuff like that happens. So we're biased because in our mind it's like Strahds are always fighting on fucking land, right? Like what the fuck? It's a subconscious thing, right? Because we're almost never shown the downside of not being able to swim outside of in gag scenarios. Like there's gag scenarios where Luffy ends up underwater and stuff like that, or like low stakes scenarios like, oh no, Luffy got caught underwater going up the waterfall, but he's still washed up ashore, so it doesn't matter. But if we were presented with like, oh my god, they're having like a fucking top tier battle at sea, like where they've run into other pirates and stuff, then yeah, now it would be a big disadvantage to not be able, like a big disadvantage if being knocked off the boat immediately means you lose, right? So that is something to consider. Because just as a reminder, when we first see like Garp and Roger fight, it's at sea, right? And logically, that would be where most battles should take place in One Piece. Oda just writes it in a manner where we happen to spend 90% of our story time on land, and there's pretty much never an actually important fight that takes place at sea, you know? Hell, the Strahds who could have nearly killed Big Mom when they knocked her off the ship, if not for her being able to like save herself, you know, just barely, right? Like it was tight though. The Strahds, like the fucking Strahds, could have killed an emperor if she wasn't careful. Yeah, here's this. If I really want a headcanon, like let's really headcanon some justification, I would say in the old era, maybe characters like Roger, Rayleigh, Gabon, Garp, they like some characters might have just viewed it as more if a liability to be Devil Fruit users because they're spending most of their time, like Roger and his crew spending most of their time adventuring about, and so it means most of their time is on the ocean, and then Garp is spending most of his time trying to fight those guys and other top tier pirates, which is generally going to happen on the ocean. So yeah, it's a huge disadvantage. Even if you get a fruit, it's a huge disadvantage that like if you're up against Garp on open waters, all he has to do is get one good punch in that knocks you off the ship and then you die, right? So, and vice versa, right? So like if we imagine that, right? And then if we apply that to the modern era, in the modern era, I guess you could headcanon that nowadays Yonko pretty much set up empires, right? Like Yonko, like Big Mom's not just casually sailing around the ocean. Kaido's not just casually sailing around the ocean on a boat, right? They have their empires and they stick to them. So generally speaking, for the top tiers, you're not gonna catch them slipping out on the ocean. This is deep headcanon. I don't even buy the argument I'm making. I don't know. Kaido's the only emperor without a flagship. It is actually legitimately very sad because, as you can see, we've made some beautiful posters of the various iconic ships of the story. And I feel like what's cool is I feel like so many of the characters, their ships, their ships communicate a lot. Like their ships have a lot of meaning attached to what they represent, right? Like obviously the Straw Hats, the Thousand Sunny, they represent the sun, the dawn, yada yada, right? Easy. But then you just look at the ships and you kind of get a feel for them. Like Whitebeard is the Moby Dick because he essentially represents like the big kahuna of the ocean. He's the big whale. He's the whale of this ocean, right? He carries the most weight, supposedly strongest, yada yada, right? Look at Big Mom's ship. It's this fucking bizarre, weird, singing ship filled with candy and all of that stuff, but that you pretty much never want to see on the ocean because it'll fucking fuck you up, right? If you look at Shanks' ship, it's warrior imagery, like Viking shit. It's not like got a bunch of bells and whistles. It's not over the top. It's not ostentatious. It's more of a traditional ship, but it gives you the idea of strong warriors on board. You know. Kaido's ship was Onigashima Island. You could make that argument. But yeah, I do genuinely like the feel that each Yonko's ship has. Blackbeard's ship, very, very... one, I think Blackbeard is going to get Pluton eventually, so I think Pluton will be his ship, and that represents him very well. Pluton, god of Lake Pluton, based off of the god of the underworld, Pluto, ship based around destruction, destroying islands, stuff like that, right? So I think that'll fit. But until then, he's got the log ship, the log raft, which represents what Blackbeard is, which is like, he is a very utility-based character. He has no sentimental attachment to anything, right? He just uses what gets the job done. He doesn't care how or what. The log ship served him fine, but he doesn't really care that much. He will do whatever gets the job done. It symbolizes kind of how he doesn't really like his crew. He doesn't need to earn his crew through gaining their respect or whatever. He's like, I'll just go pick up a crew through fucking Impo Down, right? He doesn't try to get stronger through training hockey and stuff like that. He's like, I'll just eat devil fruits to like accelerate my progress. His ship kind of stands for what he stands for, which is just like utility, right? It's just like, it's just a fucking log raft, right? There's no sentimental value. There's nothing to it. He will probably replace, like, he has replaced his ship many times over, right? The initial log raft that he had, it wasn't good enough. It got broken. But nowadays he's got much bigger log rafts, and those will presumably be replaced as well once he gets Pluton, you know? Morge heartbroken he can't monetize Kaido's non-existent ship. Actually, though, legitimately, Kaido mainly flies instead of using a ship for himself. That's true. That's true. So, like, it's just not needed. But Big Mom can fly and she still has a ship. It's kind of like, we could have seen, like, Big Mom lent the Queen Mama Chanter to her subordinates, right? Tamago and Peckhams. I think it would have been cool to see, like, Jack traveling to Zou with, you know, an iconic ship or whatever. Well, I guess Jack has his own ship, right? But something that's a Kaido flagship would be cool. The coolest ship to this day is the Saber Dreadnought. Dawn Krieg on top. Saber Dreadnought. What is this? Oh my god. It is a cool ship, honestly. It's a big-ass ship. You know what? Oh, wait, I wanted to look at this one thing. Hold on, before I forget. Let me look at this. So, the MMAs, right? Hold on. 1149. Maybe it's 1140. No, it's 1142? Okay, so looking at this, right? So we got the big ass MMAs, right? Does anyone have like a check on like how many have been defeated so far? Because I think we've actually maybe run through a lot of them. So let's see. Yeah, let's just do a quick check. So I don't know if this is Loki defeating all of them. So looking at this, right? These are the main ones. These are the main ones. This is Loki himself, right? So we know the. So it looks like Loki is going to be taken out. Do we think these characters are defeated? And were there two Draugrs? I thought there was only one Draugr. Or were there two? I know Dorian Broggy also defeated one. Because so the Nika one is dead. So the Nika one is out. Is the Fenrir one also defeated? Does anyone remember? Eric, thanks for the 2. We know Kaido has a ship. He sailed it to Marineford. What I heard is, or I think some people say that Kaido and King flew there. There are people that argue that only Kaido and King went to Marineford. I don't view that as confirmed. People just say that, well, only Kaido and King's Vivre cards specifically list that they went to Marineford, but that doesn't mean that only Kaido and King went to Marineford. That just means that it's only mentioned on their cards. So, yeah. Because Vivre cards don't mention everything a character does. Vivre cards leave out a shit ton of stuff. Just because Oda's, like, I don't know. I think people took that as like, well, it's only mentioned that Kaido... King is the only character that's mentioned as having gone to Marineford alongside Kaido, but that doesn't mean that other Beast Pirates didn't also go. It also just doesn't even make sense that only Kaido and King would go. Because it's like, why would only Kaido and King go? That doesn't make any sense. Like, because if they left as soon as they ran into another Yonko force, aka the red-haired pirates, then it's like, so they came unprepared to fight a Yonko crew, even though they were supposedly going after Whitebeard, or supposedly going after the Marines? Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Also, that whole encounter doesn't make sense, because, like, why... I hope we get some light shed on that. So I think the Shanks... To me, the Shanks flashback is currently the most interesting flashback in One Piece right now. Before, the Dragon flashback was the one that I was most curious about. I think that Dragon was the character that had the most question marks around him. But the God Valley flashback actually fills us in really well regarding Dragon's origins, his motivations, his starting point, and the rest is kind of just filling in blanks that we already kind of get the idea of, which is like, we know why Dragon had the shift in his philosophy. We know why he believes what he believes. We know what set him off on his mission. We know why he was part of the Marines. We know why he left the Marines. We know that after this, he begins the process of trying to, change the world. He starts off peacefully or something, but then he starts the Freedom Fighters. And then we know that after that, like, that evolves into the Revolutionary Army. Like, we get the gist of it. There's not any big question marks outside of just, like, who is Luffy's mom, right? That's the only question mark I have on Dragon's story now. I want to see more of Dragon's story, because I'm sure it's more if it's very interesting. But in terms of existing question marks, it's pretty much just, okay, what is the deal with Luffy's mom, right? That's it for me with Dragon. With Shanks, there's a lot of question marks. There's a ton of question marks, right? Because it's like, okay, what did Roger say to him? What were the parting words? Why did Shanks then go join the Gods Knights? Why was Shanks originally interested in finding the One Piece, but then he changed his mind and told Buggy that we're not going after that and Pirate King. That's not happening. I'm going to do something else. Like, what became of Shanks' whole mission? What was the deal with the duels with Mihawk, right? Those don't really fit Shanks' MO, but we know that they happened, right? What happened there? Then what happened with Shanks versus Loki, right? Like, how did that whole situation play out? That turned Shanks into an emperor. What happened with Shanks and Blackbeard? What was that incident, right? There's a gigantic series of holes here in Shanks' story, and even down to, like, why did Shanks stop Kaido from going to Marineford? Was Kaido really trying to... Because, like, this is important for Kaido's story, too. Was Kaido actually trying to go after Whitebeard? Because that's wildly inconsistent with the relationship we saw Kaido and Whitebeard have in the past, you know? It could be Kaido was just trying to test himself, but then it's bizarre because it's like, if Kaido was just trying to test himself, why didn't he fight Whitebeard way back when Whitebeard was actually in fighting shape, you know? Why wait till the last minute? I don't know. Black Sheep says, Kaido didn't seem that mad about getting stopped before coming to Marineford. They might have talked. No, it's explicitly established that that Kaido and that they fought. That is established in the story. The Marines report, like, multiple times that there was a clash, that they battled, right? And it's the Marines themselves that are monitoring the situation. So there's no they're not lying there. Like, Kaido and Shanks actually fought. You can debate how it resolved. Maybe it resolved by talking, like the Kaido and Big Mom battle. You can debate how many forces Kaido might have brought with him, but I just think that's a silly debate, because if Kaido is actually trying to go after Marineford, or trying to go after, you know, Whitebeard's entire Grand Fleet, then Kaido would have brought the sufficient forces to fight a battle on that scale. So I think that that's a silly excuse. If you want to, like, from my perspective, if you're just being, like, if you're just going Occam's razor, what's the simplest answer to this? It's either Kaido faced Shanks, could not overcome the red-haired pirates, and was forced to back down, or they fought, but then they were able to talk it out and resolve it through words, right? But no matter what, like, so basically the two possibilities are either Kaido was driven away by Shanks, right? So Kaido L, or it's a draw, right? There's no really... either way, it's like... either way, we know that there was a battle, and that it seems like Shanks came away with looking better from it, right? But if people prefer to believe that Kaido... There's no outcome where Kaido got the better of Shanks, right? Because we know that Kaido ultimately had to back down, right? So either it was a draw and then they talked it out, or they fought and then Shanks got the... or sorry, Kaido got the L and had to leave, right? Those are the only two outcomes. GDYY7 says, why would Kaido be called the strongest creature if the Marines saw Kaido not being able to overcome Shanks? The only thing that we're told by the narrator is that this is what people say. People say Kaido is... Whoops. Oh shit, did that fuck up the camera? No, it's fine. People say that Kaido is the world's strongest creature, right? That does not mean everybody says Kaido is the world's strongest creature. That just means that people in general say it. It's a common sentiment, right? That's like, people say Nico Robin is the demon child. She's a demon child. That's what people say. Nico Robin is a living demon child of Ohara. That doesn't mean every... Sorry. That doesn't mean every character in One Piece says that. That means that some people say that. Or like a large number of people, general public says that, right? Alright, continuing on. Time Lord 22, thanks to the two. Sanji reverses promise and has to beat Dami Zoro. I think... okay, let's put this down. Sanji has to beat Dami Zoro. I genuinely think that... I think... I think even in a Shanks fan's wildest dreams, I cannot imagine them, like, truly believing that Sanji would not only like straight up defeat Zoro as his main battle of the arc, but it would be like a powered up, like supersized version of Zoro. I like, I don't know, people. Well, there's hardcore fans out there everywhere. But like, Shanks beating Dami reversing Zoro is insane. Oh, Sanji fans. Sorry. We were just talking Shanks, so mixed up some words there. But I cannot imagine Sanji fans imagining that Sanji beats... Like, even one just thinking that, like, I believe that Sanji's main battle of the arc will be against Zoro, and Sanji will actually defeat him, like, outright. But two, it'll actually be like a powered-up, amped version of Zoro. Because that's the only way Sanji could get a real challenge, right? That's kind of crazy. Alright guys, we're probably going to wrap up stream here shortly. But make sure that you get your hands on these hoodies before our deal ends. They are right now, every hoodie is $80 off. Every single hoodie is $80 off. And if you want all 3 Admirals, you can buy 2 discounted hoodies and get the 3rd one free. So this deal is legitimately only running till March. Get your hoodies right now while you can. This deal is legitimately only running till March. Yeah. With that, watch out for tomorrow's video. I think it's a really strong one. It is kind of like the second part to last Saturday's video, but it breaks down even more. And I think it completes a big part, like a big missing question to me in One Piece that's existed for a long time, especially regarding the Blackbeard Emu situation. So if you watch till the conclusion of tomorrow's video, I think, puts a lot of things into place. So watch out for that. That's all I'll say. And yeah, with that, thank you all for tuning in, and I will talk